Good morning. Welcome to this session on getting productive with Gmail for Calendar. This session is aimed at office staff, admin staff, those who might not be in the classroom teaching, but whose work depends on using the Google tools for their productivity and their work. This is a 90-minute session looking at Gmail and Calendar in particular. There are 3 more sessions coming in this series. Later on today, we have a session looking at Google Drive, sharing permissions, creating and receiving documents there. And then later in the week, there are 2 sessions, one looking at Google Forms and a relatively simple look at Google Sheets alongside it. And then a last session going much deeper into Google Sheets itself for those of you who depend on spreadsheets as part of your work. Just quick introductions. First of all, my name is Gitter. I'm a Google for Education certified innovator and trainer and a primary school teacher myself. I'm the one that's going to be with you for the 2 sessions today, and then the 2 later in the week, you'll meet some different hosts for those. We do have the YouTube chat with us today. So if you're watching live, and I can see quite a few of you are, please do make use of that chat. I can see a couple of introductions and questions in there already. We have plenty of time today. 90 minutes is a nice length for the session. It means we don't have to cram everything in. We can cover everything we need to cover. So make use of that chat. Ask questions. I'll keep an eye on it throughout the session to make sure that I reply to any questions there. Because the whole point of turning up live is that you get to ask what you want to ask and make sure we cover what you want to cover. So please make full use of that chat as the session goes on. Don't feel you have to wait for me to ask any questions. Just throw them in there. Now, as I said, the session is looking at Gmail and Calendar in particular. And a lot of you, when you registered for the session, you did help us out a lot by putting down there what were you looking for. I can see David just writing now that they're due to move email and calendar from LGFL to Google soon. And that's a common thread in the forms that were submitted when you registered for this session. So we're going to take things from the very start in Gmail. We will start with the very simple, easy stuff of sending and receiving an email, but then we'll build up throughout, as I said, a nice long session where we can reach those more advanced features that will be important for you in organizing your inbox, in some of maybe, even if you use Gmail for a while, some of those settings you might know exist that makes your life that little bit easier, as well as looking at ways of changing the view of your inbox to maybe suit your needs a bit better. Similar then with Calendar, we'll start off easy, creating an event, inviting people to it, and then go that little bit deeper to answer some of the more, not quite advanced might not be the word, but the more pressing questions that some of you asked, such as setting up meetings, resources, and so on. So whether you are literally never touched Gmail and Calendar before, coming from LGFL mail or from any other platform to Gmail, or whether you've been using it for a while and just wants to ensure they're using it the best possible way, the session should hopefully be right for you. Now, before we delve in, since some of you are talking about moving to Google soon, let's just show exactly what Google Workspace for Education includes, because it's much more than just your email and calendar. On the screen here are the tools that come as part of your Google Workspace for Education, the accounts that you will have set up for yourself in the school. Some of them will clearly be more important for the teachers than yourselves, starting off right there with Google Classroom on the side. If your school is already in Gmail and Google, I'm sure your teachers are using that daily already. Then we have Forms. As I said, a special section on that coming up later in the week, Thursday, I believe. Forms is a great way of creating surveys, of sending to parents to ask for information, for using as staff surveys, well-being and so on. Teachers might also use them as quizzes for their students, but we'll be looking more at the surveys or information gathering way of using Forms later in the week. We don't need to worry about the admin console here. That's very much the task of someone else, not for us. That's whoever's creating your accounts and setting the right permissions and so on. Then we have the communication tool. We have Gmail, Chat, and Meet. Gmail is our focus today. So I won't delve any more into that right now. But then Meet, I'm sure most of you have come across. Meet is the video software for meetings and for live lessons that we had during distance learning. Chats in the middle. This depends if it is switched on or not. Some schools don't have this one switched on. Others have it just for staff. This is your instant messaging. So to send quick messages back and forth, a little bit like you're texting on your phone and so on. Some schools just switch it off. Some keep it on for staff. I'm a fan of it for staff myself, but everyone's different there. And then we have all the creating and collaborating and productive suites down here. Google Drive on the far side, that way you save all your things, and then slides, sheets, docs, and sites to create a document, our presentations, and Jamboard at the end, which is a collaborative whiteboard. We're not going to delve into any of those in this session, but later on today, we are looking at Drive, slides, and docs as part of a session then, and Sheets, as Ed is coming on Thursday. And then finally on the side, to help us keep managed, we have Google Keep, which is Post-it Central, where you can create your sticky notes, keep your lists, and so on. If we're lucky, we might be able to have a quick look at that later on in the session. We'll see how we're going on time-wise, but it's well worth checking out, even if we don't reach it today. And then, of course, calendar, second half of the session, keeping everything organized. So let's delve straight into Gmail. We don't really need a slide for this. Let's open a new tab and delve straight in. The point of the session is not to keep throwing slides at you, but to have a hands-on view. So I'm going to do two things. First, I'm going to zoom in a little, just to make sure that my screen is nice and big for you to see over there. And secondly, I'm also going to make my mouse bigger, just because I'm going to be pointing at a lot of buttons, so it's much easier if I have a giant mouse for you to follow. As I said, we'll start at the very start. So if you're already using Gmail, maybe this first 5-10 minutes might be simplistic for you. Maybe not. Maybe we'll show a few things that you didn't know already. But let's head into Gmail. I can either just search for it in the Google search bar over here, or as always with Google Tools, I can look for the waffle. That's in the top right corner, this 9 little dots up here. Not sure what its official name is, but we're going with waffle. So let's click on that, and Gmail will always be somewhere near the top. So let's click on that and open up Gmail. This is not my real account. You don't have to worry about any private emails showing on here. I'm just looking at that. I might even zoom in that little bit more to make sure it's fully visible for you within that screen. There we go, much nicer. So lots of things going on a Gmail screen. We have on the left side here, like you'd be used to on your previous email client, I'm sure, all our different categories. I do have a chat and rooms and meet section down the bottom. Now, chat and rooms does depend on whether your school has chat switched on or not. I'm not going to spend too much time on that because many of you will not have that in your Gmail. However, if you do, all you can see is that you can use it to send quick chat messages. I can click on plus here, start a group conversation, create a room to talk to others, or just type in a name of Wendy, my colleague, let's say, and send her a message on the bottom. We're not going to spend too much time on chats today, as I said, as many of you will not have that switched on. Then we have our main inbox. Here we go. Here's all our emails in a row. We will delve into today the different ways we can lay that out to fit whatever Gmail needs you do have. And then on the right side, there's a few extra options. You can see calendar there and keep. We'll look at those later on as well. Let's start off just by sending a simple email. I'm going to click on the pen in the top left over here. That's going to bring up a little pop-up for me to write my message in. Just a note on that, if you don't like it being small there in the corner, if you'd like to make it fuller in the screen, you can always use the little arrow, the double arrow in the middle here, and that brings your message fuller to the screen, so it might be easier for you to see the layout. Personally, I do tend to like the small ones as it keeps me able to scroll up and down my emails to check something else out while I'm writing them. Personal preference there. So let's write my email. This one's going to go to Wendy, my colleague. There she is. And if I want my copies and my blind copies, they're going to be here on the side. I can click blind copy and add them into there if I wish. Then let's throw in a subject. Tomorrow's meeting, let's say. And we'll throw in there, hi Wendy, are you free to join in our meeting? Oh. I'm going to stop there for a second, just so you can explain that. Don't worry about this trying to fill in the box for me. I'll explain that in just a second. Just in case you're wondering how it already knows I'm going to write later this week, I will come back to that later in the session. Later this week, I'm thinking tomorrow. And just so I don't confuse Wendy too much, this is a demo. I'll just put it there just in case she thinks I actually want to meet her for a meeting tomorrow, even though this is a dummy account as well. Kind regards, Gitter. Now, along the bottom here, we have our different options. Most of these are self-explanatory. VA here brings up the formatting bar for my bold, my text, and so on. The attachment option will open up my file manager. Now, I'm on a Chromebook, so it looks like this. Depends what device you're on. It will come up with your device's normal file manager, so I can upload anything from my computer. I'll be honest, it's rare that I use that button now, because the vast majority of my work is saved here in the Google Drive. That's a triangle. I can click on this, and it opens my, let me just get rid of the Smart Compose thing for a second. It will open up my Google Drive, and I can add anything from there. Since all my work is now in my Google Drive, that's become my go-to button. Then we can insert a link to an external website. We can add an emoji if you really need to. Add a photo. One thing on adding a photo or a document from Drive, by the way. Let's say I want to add one more sentence in here. Here's the agenda, let's say. Now, if I was to add it, attach, upload something from my computer, it would just add as an attachment at the bottom, like you're probably used to. But if I add it straight from my Drive, let me just grab something that I've used recently on here. Here you go. Let's use the presentation for today. It will actually add as part of the email. So I can write, here's the agenda, and I can keep writing underneath it and add some more. So instead of having all the attachments lumped in at the bottom, I can put them when I'm describing them inside the message. And the same thing happens if I insert a picture as well. And then the final important options here. First is to turn confidential mode on or off. So this might not be a feature used too often, but just to show that it's here, the turn the confidential mode means that you can send a mission impossible, this message will self-destruct later type message. You can say, this email you can only see for the next week, and then it disappears out of the other person's inbox. Really is a self-destruct message. So I can say it expires in a day, in a week, in whatever I want it to be. I can, if I want to, say that there must be a text message along with it, with a code that they have to get the text message and code before they can open the email. You don't have to have that. It can just be an email to a person that will then disappear a week later, and will stop them from forwarding, copying, printing, or downloading the email as well. Two things to note there. One, the copy that you have in your sent folder will stay. That won't go away. You'll still have that one. And the second part of it is, even though you can't forward, copy, print, or download the email afterwards, nothing's going to stop someone just whipping out the phone and taking a photo of their screen. So even though it's as confidential as possible with technology that we have, nothing can stop someone from just taking a photo. So just keep that in mind. That's confidential mode if you need it for a certain reason. And the last one there, the pen, is to add a signature. We'll cover that later in the session. So I'm happy with my email. I can click on send to send it now, or click on the little arrow next to it to schedule send. Just to bring up a quick question, so you can see David has thrown it there in the chat, about the confidential options to transfer information between schools and pupils. So the confidential option does work across domains. So it's not just for sending emails from me to someone else in school. The way it works, if I'm sending to someone, another school who uses Gmail as well, it's all built in. The email will come up in their inbox as normal. They'll click on it. It will open as normal, but with a message saying that this email is in confidential mode and will disappear at a certain date. If you send it to someone who is not a Google user, who is using another email client, they can still have it. It will arrive in their inbox as normal. They'll open it, and instead of seeing the email straight away, they'll have a message saying, a confidential email has been sent to you. It was available until this certain date. Click on the link here to see it. They click on the link, and that would open up a page where they can view the email. So it still works whether they're on Gmail or not, and it works across domains as well. So yes, David, if let's say a pupil is moving from one school to another and needs to transfer the information across, that is one way you could do it. Just remember that on the other side, they will only be to look at it for a certain amount of time. They won't be able to download it, save it to a file, or anything like that. So I'm going to send this email over to Wendy now. As I said, I could click the arrow and schedule send as well. If I want the email to go at a certain time, maybe it's an email for parents that should only go out at 3 p.m. Maybe I'm the type of person who works late at night and I want to send an email. I don't want to hassle my colleagues at 10 p.m. at night. I can write it, schedule send for 8 a.m. in the morning, and know that they'll only receive it then. I'm going to send this to Wendy right now, however. There we go. It's gone. Off it goes. You'll see, however, in the bottom corner here, it says message sent. And there was a little box there for a second that said undo send. I'll show you that in just a second, what that undo send means, because that's a really key thing. And if you're starting using Gmail, I do this the first change you do. Lynn, I have seen your question there. I'll come back to that one in just a second. So when you first turn into Gmail, if you're already using it, do this today. Head into the settings. So the settings is right at the top, right. So there it is, that little cog up there. Click on that one to head into settings, and then click on see all settings. We'll look at all the rest stuff in a minute. There's one setting I want you to change straight away. So I'm into settings, I'm into all settings. I'm looking for the undo send option over here. Let me get rid of this pop-up. So undo send. Now I've got mine set to 5 seconds because that's the default. When you first use your Gmail, it will be there on 5 seconds. I highly recommend you bump that one up to 30 seconds and then scroll to the bottom and click save. So 30 seconds, as I said, highly recommend you head for that one. The reason being, when you now send a new email, which I'll do right now, if I now just send one, I'll send this one to my other account. Ooh. So I'm not going to interfere with anyone else. Just close this example for a second. I've written my email. This just keeps asking me if I want to enable desktop notifications, by the way. We'll talk notifications later, so I'm just going to keep closing that so I can mention it in a minute. I send this, and that undo will now stick around for 30 seconds. The point that is obvious. You've sent the email, you've suddenly gone, no, I forgot to mention this, or no, I sent that to the wrong person. Click undo, the email comes back, it hasn't gone to them, you can make any changes and then send it again. The default is 5 seconds. In my experience, that's not enough time to have your heart attack, panic. I'm just going to click OK on this as he keeps asking me. As I said, I'll explain the notifications later on. The 30 seconds gives you time. The only thing to note on that is that what really happens in the back end is that Gmail holds on to your email for 30 seconds, and then only after 30 seconds gone does it then send it out. So if you have a very urgent email to send out, just remember that the undo send will hold on to it for a little bit. That question from Lynn, by the way, let me bring it on the screen so we can see it. Ask for read receipt. Is there a read receipt option in Gmail? Yes, there is. Now, I haven't used this for a while, but I'm pretty sure it's hiding underneath the snowman over here. So the 3 dots in the bottom right of your email. I think it's just called the more menu, but I'm going with snowman because that's easier to remember. Let me think. Is it behind there? I might have to come back to that one because I have not used this in such a while. There used to be in Gmail a read option at the bottom there. Let me come back to you on that one. I haven't used it. There is one in Gmail, but I haven't used it for such a long time that I can't quite remember where it is. So later, yes, there is, but I'll come back to you with an answer later on that one. So we've sent our email. We've used undo send to stop it from going out too fast. Now we're going to have a look at what happens when we receive those emails instead. So you can look in my inbox here. First of all, there's a lot of things in the inbox. Everyone deals with their inbox differently. This is not my real inbox. I would hate to have 52 is not too bad, I guess. Some people let unread emails just build up in their inbox. Other ones go for what they call inbox zero, which is to completely empty your inbox and have nothing there. Everyone's got their own way. But there's a few settings we can switch in Gmail that will help us to fit whatever our inbox control methods are. So first of all, we can see that if somebody sends me an email, like my alter ego GitHub with a different address has done this morning, if they attach a document, it's here to see straight away. So this here is a Google slide called Creativity Apps that was attached to this email. So I don't even have to open the email and look inside to then open the attachment. If I click present there, give me a second, go back. If I just want to open the attachment straight away, I can just click on it here and that attachment will open. Secondly, as we look down, someone mentioned that one thing they hope to get from the session is to manage the emails, especially Google Drive sharing things. Because when someone shares you something on Google Drive, you get an email like this one. This is tut via Google Slides. Then we have here via Google. So you can see that you get a lot of those that people share with you. So one question we had was how to organize and streamline the inbox. There's a few different ways. We'll talk filters later on in the session. But first of all, it's important to see there's a lot of different ways you can look at your inbox. And they're all, again, behind the settings panel. But this time, we don't have to go to see all. We're just going to look at the stuff we have down here. So first, we have the density, default, comfortable, and compact. If I switch to comfortable, the only thing you'll see change is those attachments will no longer be visible. So if I click on comfortable, those have gone away, and now it's a straight equal list of emails without some being larger to show attachments and some not. Again, clearly a matter of preference here. Then we have compact. That takes it a step further again and squashes them right close together so you can get as much as possible into one screen. Again, fully a matter of preference. I'm a default one. I like to see those in here, but it depends on what you like. I see David's message there. Yes, David, we will talk a little bit about shared email addresses later on as well. Then below are the inbox types. I have defaults, which just lists my emails in chronological order. Some prefer to have the importance first. So if I click this one, and I load, you can see that the emails that were flagged as important come first. Now, a note here. One thing that when people switch to Gmail, that they don't understand why it's not there. When you send an email, there is not a flag this as important option. The reason being is that Gmail doesn't think that should be up to the sender. Well, sender thinks important might not be what the receiver thinks is important. So Gmail will flag its own. It will learn what you like, what you feel is important as you reply and who they come from. And it will its own decides to tag things important or let the reader tag them as well. So if you want the important ones first, you can click them on here. And read first should be quite self-explanatory. Throws all my unread emails to the top. I have way too much on this account. We'll talk about starring in a minute, but you can see, let's do it now. We can see all these little stars next to emails here. I can star any email that I feel is important, and I want to come back to later. So if I then click start first, all those will be at the top, obviously. And then there's a few other options on the bottom. Multiple inboxes lets you have a combination. So it can let you have a starred, drafts, unread, and all got their own little sections. Personally, I stick to default myself. I'll show a few options that I use to make it better later, but I stick to default as my main one. And then the last two sections here, first is reading pane. Again, depending what email you used before, you might find this is more natural for you. If I click right of inbox and reload the page, let that load for a second, I now have this reading pane on the right. So when I click on an email, I can see it on the right. For a lot of people who use to different email clients, that might be a little bit more what they're used to and comfortable. So if you want that one, you just head, as I said, into the settings and choose the reading pane on the right of inbox. Again, personally not my thing. I prefer the no split, but I know plenty do. And then the last option here is conversation view. And that is something that does take time to get used to when you switch to Gmail. It's the fact that if you look at this email here called meeting, there is a little number 3 at the end. It says Gito, me, Gito, 3. That's because this is now a conversation. There's been a few emails back and forth, and instead of keeping them all as separate emails listed in inbox, it's put them all together. So if I click here, I can see that I've got my 3 emails, the original one at the top, my reply, and then on below. I know these all come from GitHub. They're just 2 different accounts. I know that a lot of people will find that confusing at first, especially the fact that the newest one is the one at the bottom here. The way it works, you can see that it's closed the top 2. It's concertinaed them down because I've already dealt with them. I've read this one and I wrote that email myself. It always opens on the last email that I've read. So if overnight, when I've been sleeping, there's been 5 or 6 emails in this thread because there's a lot of people involved, and I open in the morning, it will open on the next one that I have not read yet. So it won't go straight to the bottom. It lets me go to the spot I was so I can then catch up on the thread below. It is possible to obviously open and close these. As you can see there, I can unconcertina all the above ones if I want to double check. You can switch conversation view off if you want. You can head to that settings wheel again, go right to the bottom, click conversation view. You'll reload the page and you'll see that those 3 little emails grouped together have now been split into separate emails. There's meeting, there's re-meeting there. Can I give one recommendation? If you're brand new to Gmail, keep this on for a couple of weeks first. It's going to be different and it's going to confuse you a little to start off with, but it does make the experience that much nicer once you're used to it. So try it out for 2 weeks first. Don't just switch it off straight away because it's unfamiliar. Try it out, and if you still don't like it, then fair enough. Untick that box, come back to a more traditional inbox view. But as someone who's been living in Gmail for a long time now, believe me to say, it is better. It is much nicer once you're used to it. Now, the one last thing you'll see that's changed is I now have the primary, social, and promotions up here, which wasn't on a second ago. That happened, by the way, when I switched back to default on here. I believe, let me just double check if I click on this one. Yes. So when I switched back to default on here, it changed by adding the social and promotions at the top. And I can change those by clicking on the customize button. There's a few options: social, promotions, updates, and forums. Now, what they do, if I click on especially updates, I'm not going to too fussed about forums over there, not really things I would use too much. But if I now click on save, just to add that update in there as well. There's the answer to why I couldn't find the read receipts earlier, by the way, Lynn. Mark has pointed out they need to be switched on by your administrator, first of all. That is absolutely correct. So the reason I couldn't find read receipts in my little snowman menu there was that my administrator has not switched them on for some reason. So yes, as long as the person running account switch them on, as Mark says, if they switch it on, you will then find it in that little snowman more menu in your email. So the thing that these tabs at the top does is it starts taking out the, should I say, less important emails out of your main view. So under social, for example, it's going to put things, let me switch it over here. Under social, I don't have any here, but it would put things like maybe go for your home computer, anything from Twitter, your Facebook, and so on would appear there automatically. So any updates, someone else shared this with you on those social networks would appear here. For work, I might switch social off because nothing might not appear in there, depending if I am the person in charge of those things for school. Promotions, however, definitely is more important for my work. This is going to throw in my marketing emails, the newsletters that I've signed up to in the past. We'll throw all those into here so that I don't have to deal with them as part of my main inbox. It just means I can spend the most of my day looking at my main inbox, and then maybe once a day, once every couple of days, jump into my promotions and just check there's nothing there that I need access to. And then finally, update. This is a real key one for me because this is where all those, this has been shared to, from this Google Doc has been shared with you, this slide has been shared with you, all those kind of things then gets put in this updates part, the things that you might not need to be checking every second of the day. Keeping my primary clear for actual messages that people have typed and written me, or for invitations to specific events. We'll look at calendar in a minute. Again, each their own. I find this massively useful, especially that promotions one to take those marketing emails into one place. It's never going to be perfect, so it's still important to go and check. So in case something's the wrong place, I can see there's one here that was a bit more relevant than the others, so I can grab this, drag it, and drop it back into primary. And Google will learn. You can see that's there. Oh, do you want to do this for all messages from this person? Yeah, I do. And it will learn over time. If you do move things around, it'll go, okay, that's not the type of message they want in promotions. They want to keep those in primary. It's a really useful feature. I know some people who don't like it. A colleague of mine switched it on and then got annoyed because she wasn't checking these every day and therefore she was missing important messages, she felt. So she went back and switched them off. Again, it's all to do, if I go to inbox type, switch through these off. It's all to do with what you're comfortable with and what works for your, say, needs, not needs, your habits and your preferences. So I'm now going to open this email that's been sent to me. As I said, I could have accessed the attachment straight away, but I haven't. So now I can decide what to do with this. Replying is always easy. I've got the reply button over here. If there was more than one person in this thread, I could click on the snowman. I'd have a reply all option there as well. But obviously, this is a single email from a single person. I can also forward from there as well. If I do set reply, it does open just as a little box underneath. I can write in here and keep going from there. If you want to change the heading, by the way, the subject of the email, instead of just being blah, 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 you can click on the arrow here and you can see that edit subject is an option. And so is pop out reply if you want to, again, bring it back to full screen. So you can quickly send, thanks for telling me I'll look at it later. I can send that away as my reply. And you can see that's now been added to my conversation thread over here. If I went back to my inbox, it would be there as a 2 next to it. So sending, replying, all easy enough to do. In a minute, we're going to come to, no, let's do it now. We're going to organize our emails. So again, I keep coming back to this. Everyone's different. Personally, I've never been a folder type person. I like to have my inbox and just search through it. However, I know a lot of people depend a lot on their folders. You won't see the word folder used at all in Gmail. The similar thing is labels. So instead of having different folders, we're going to have labels. They do pretty much the same function with a couple of different things, which I will point out now. So I'm going to head back into this email. And at the top, I have the option here to add a label. It looks a bit like the labels you put on bags at the airport, the same shape as those. So I can click this. And since I don't have any labels on my own yet, I'm going to create a new one. I'm going to call this one maybe pastoral. Let's just say that's what I'm going to head it under and click create. Straight away, you can see pastoral has now been added on the side here as a label, just as a folder would do in the email clients. If I click on pastoral, it's just going to show me any emails underneath that label. I can then go back and add more to that. So let's go to this meeting here is also pastoral. This time I can just click and it's there for me to tick because it's a pre-made label now. Or I can do them en masse and just start ticking over here and say these 3. Oh, didn't want to click on that, did I? That's an invitation. These 3 are part of the pastoral label. If I now go back to pastoral, all those have been added. But the key difference between the folders you might be used to and labels is you can add more than one label to the same email. So this email I can see is in my inbox and now is pastoral. But I can go back, click on add, and also add this maybe to staff and create a new label for that. And now that same email, it's called tomorrow's presentation. I can find it in the pastoral section and in the staff label. So the main difference between a folder and a label is that you can have more than one label in the same place. Also, when I added those labels, you'll see that the emails stayed in my inbox as well. They're still there. There's a way for that not to happen if I drag and drop instead. So if I grab this email here, let's say, drag that into staff, it will label it as staff and it will remove it from my inbox as well. So if you prefer that, that's also an option there. Finally, these little yellow arrows on the side here, these are the importance that I mentioned earlier. So Google will automatically label some things as important, but you can self-label as well just by ticking them in the box there. So I quickly mentioned that one. So labels, simple enough to use. You can add them. You can have sub-labels. So when I created that label earlier, let's create a new one now. You'll saw that there was an option there to nest underneath. So you can have a label and then sub-labels underneath that. And if you want to manage them, delete labels, move them into sub-labels and so on, we'll show you in the settings later how that is done. Now, on the left-hand side, we know what our starred is. That brings up all the emails we've starred. Underneath it, we have snoozed. And in snoozed, I don't think I have anything. No, I don't. So the idea behind snoozed is that any email that comes in, when I hover on it, on the right-hand side, there is this clock option. If I click the clock option, I can say this email is important. I just don't want to deal with it today. That's an email for tomorrow. So I can say snooze this until, let's say, 8 a.m. tomorrow or next week, or pick my own date and time. So I send that away. It leaves my inbox. And at the time I chose, tomorrow morning at 8, that will come back into my inbox as a new email. I'll get a notification. It will feel just like a new email. But it just means I can say, I'll deal with that later. If I do send it by mistake, if I do snooze it by mistake and then go, no, I need that, I can always head back into snooze on the side. And that's where it's really hiding. It's hiding there until it comes back into my inbox. Sent and drafts should be obvious. We know what our labels are on here. If I click more, there's a few more options down there. My important, my scheduled ones, my spam, my trash, and my all mail. So let's talk all mail for a second. I did say that I prefer a relatively lean inbox with not too many things there. This is not a good example of a lean inbox, but it's not my real one anyway. What I would say is I never actually fully delete an email. There is the option. If I tick on here, you can see there's a lovely bin there that would delete the email and throw it into the bin. They go move to trash. I don't do that, and I recommend that you don't either. Because even those completely insignificant looking emails might be important later on. Maybe it's just an invitation to a meeting. Maybe it's an email telling you that your package has arrived. But maybe 3 weeks, 2 months down the line, for some reason, that becomes important. What day was that meeting? When did that package arrive? That might suddenly become important. Therefore, we use the archive button. It's up here. It's the box with an arrow in it. You'll also see it when the email is open. I can use it there. And you'll also see it when you hover an email. It's one of those options next to the clock and so on. If I archive an email, it leaves my inbox. It feels like it's been deleted. It's gone. I'm not going to find it anywhere in my inbox. If I've labeled it, it will stay in the labeling area, obviously, but it's not here in my inbox to get in the way. But key, I can still find it if I need to. I can either head down, click on more, and go to all mail, because all mail shows me every message, be it in archived, be it labeled, be it in inbox. But also, and probably more useful, I can use the search box. So the top here is the search mail and chat. If there's one thing Google knows how to do, it's create good quality search boxes. And the same is true in Gmail. It's really easy to find a document in Gmail. I can search, for example, for the word presentation. I'm sure that will come up in some emails. I will bring them up. Yes, the one that's got tomorrow's presentation on it, but also any email that either has the word presentation in the email itself or even in the attachment. If the attachment is a Google Doc or slide or a sheet, it will have a look through that as well. And to narrow down my search further, once I've searched, it then lets me here, let's say, only look for ones from my colleague Ben, or choose when that email was sent, or only have ones with attachments, or quite useful as well, exclude calendar updates. So if you get a lot of invite calendars, you can exclude those. So a lot of options will pop up as pills to help you search deeper. Or when you start the search, let me head back into my mail. This little arrow on the top right here lets you dive that little bit deeper. You can search from to subject, has the words and so on. The two I find really useful, one is has attachments. So if you're looking for an email that has an attachment, because that's the document you want to find again, we can just tick has attachments. Or the dates within. If you know the email came somewhere in the middle of January, well, I can search for 1 week either side of, let's say, January the 14th. And therefore it'll look 1 week before, 1 week after, and everything in between. So I can search for those. I might not have had an email those days. Oh, I did have a couple. They'll come up. And again, I can keep delving into the search. If you delete an email, of course, it will go to your bin and it will not come up in the search. Unlike with some email clients, there is not a limit to how much emails you can have archived and in your inbox. There's no storage limit on your accounts here. And I think schools have a theoretical limit somewhere, but it's so big, I doubt any school is going to get close to it. So for all intents and purposes, treat your inbox as if there was no problems with storage. So you don't have to, as I know my school used to, have to do every now and then, export all the emails or archive them and save them on a hard drive somewhere. Don't need it. It's all here in your Gmail. It can be there forever. Even on my personal one, which does have a limit, because personal is not the same as education accounts. My personal one has been running for nearly 10 years now, and I've never had to delete emails from there either. So keep using that archive button, which means that it feels like the email's been deleted and out of your inbox, but it still is there if for some reason you really need it. So that's all our organizing sorted. The one we haven't looked at, which we will right at the end of the Gmail section, is our filters, our rules, where we can say any email that comes in from Wendy should have this label or should go to this inbox and so on. But first I'm going to delve into settings, full settings this time, over here in the settings cog. I'm going to click see all settings, and that's going to bring up quite a few additional options. We've already looked at our undo send. We put down 30 seconds, no problem. I will skip over some of these, especially some that are quite obvious or might not be needed too much. Obviously, we have our grammar and spelling and autocorrect switch on automatically. The next one is Smart Compose. So you'll see Smart Compose an option here, and then Smart Compose personalization as well. We had a little glimpse of this earlier when I was writing, but what this one does, if I start an email here, so I'm going to send this to my other account. Meeting Hi, can we meet later? Is he going to do it for me now? Oh, he did it for me earlier. Now he doesn't. It's because I'm not replying. So I wasn't quite sure what to do. Let me see if we can get it back where I did earlier. I should have shown this when it first came up, I guess. But here we go. If I go back to this, reply. Don't worry. The meeting isn't. Oh, I'm going to say this again. It's not going to come for me this time. Isn't until later. Okay, so as it happens, Smart Compose is going to show me in a second. It did show earlier in the session. What it will do, depending on what you're writing and whether Google feels it can guess what you want to write, you'll see shadow text coming after guessing what you're about to write. And if that does come up and you agree that's the sentence you want to write, you can click Tab and it finishes the sentence for you automatically. This does feel a bit weird the first few times you see it. It even makes you feel a bit defensive. How dare you try and guess what I'm about to say? I would say the same as I did for Conversation View. Try it out first. Leave it on for a couple of weeks because I find it quite useful now. And with that personalization option on, which is the second option, it learns from the way you type. Again, this might not be something a lot of people want. It might be something a lot of people do. Depends on your preferences. But if I start every email with hope you're well, it will start suggesting that to me every time I start an email. If I finish with hope to hear from you soon, it might suggest that. It learns a bit from the way you speak to personalize to your writing style as if it was. So try having it on. I really like it by now. It saves me only a few seconds each sentence, but every second counts. But the option is there to switch off if you so wish. Down we go. We've already spoken about preview pane there. The one thing to note, if you have that preview pane on, that screen on the side where you can just click through emails and automatically have it show, it asks how long do you want to wait until that is counted as read. So if you put it as never, it means that it won't count as read until you actually open the email up. If you say immediately, it means that even if you've just clicked on something and not read it, it will think it's been read. So choose the one you want from there. Keep going down through some of these. Notifications, I kept getting that pop-up asking me if I want to turn them on. And I kept saying I'm not sure, so then it kept asking. But choose yes or no on that one. Yes just means that if you're on Chrome already, you'll have a pop-up popping up when a new email arrives. Personally, I find that very handy. I have it on, but everyone each their own. Choose what works for you. Scroll down a bit more. This is an important one here. Here's our signature. So we can add our signatures directly from here. I'll create a new one. Let's say I call this one external, because you can have more than one signature. That's quite a new change to Gmail. So I can create my external one here. Get to add on, blah, 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 whatever, add the photo and so on. Then if I want to, I can create another one, and maybe this is my internal signature, and have that one being different, whatever I'm going to add. So I can add those, and then when we're writing our emails, well, let me save the settings first so those new ones count. Any settings you change, you do want to scroll to the bottom and click Save, by the way. So now if I'm writing an email, I have this pen at the bottom that gives me an option of throwing on a different signature, the external or internal one from there. And the last part of the setting we have here, see all settings. Scroll all the way down, we have our vacation responder, our out of office. So if I want to switch it on, quite easy, switch it on. I can choose the last day if I want, write down what my out of office should say. I'm off, and save it, and that will turn on the out of office. So you can choose to only have the out of office go to people in your contacts or people in your school. On the whole, I don't think that's worth switching on because you want everyone to be told that you're not there to read the emails. But if I click it on, a really handy feature with it is that this yellow bar comes at the top. So if halfway through my holiday, I do log in because I just can't keep away from my emails, it does remind me that my out of office is on. And if I've come back early and I'm ready to start again, I don't have to go into my settings again to switch it off. I can just click End Now, and that switches off my out of office. Can I just note one more thing, by the way? On the signature front, you saw me choose there before external and internal. You do have the option here to choose your default ones. So saying like for new emails, when you're writing a new email for a chain, you want your default to be external maybe. And when you're replying, again, you might have a different one there. But just to show that you don't have to always go and add. You can now set a default one for emails from there. This is the main page of settings. There are a few others at the top. We're going to skip some of them. Not all of them are going to be relevant for us. Labels here is where we can manage our labels. So you remember I added pastoral and staff earlier. I can hide them. So the label still exists. You can still add it, but it doesn't appear on the left side here. Or I can just remove the label and say that's not a label I want anymore. Let's delete it. So all that can be done from here. Also from here, I can hide other things that are in this left-hand menu. So I can say, I don't want to see snoozed as an option there. Snooze has now gone away. I don't want starred in there. Starred now goes away. So you can manage that to the way that you'd like it to be. There is also categories. We didn't reach the categories. I can't say I use them too often. They're way down here over there already. You can turn those off as well if you so wish. Then if I click on inbox, all these settings on the whole, we don't really need to worry too much about now because we can access them from that original quick settings menu that I clicked earlier when I was switching back from different inbox views. Don't worry too much about accounts on there or filters and block address. We're going to talk about filters in just a minute. We're not going to be forwarding our emails, so we'll skip on that one. The one I do want to hit, I believe it'll be under advanced here. Yes, it is. So in advanced, there's a few extra options. Certainly one of them you will want to turn on, maybe more than that. Auto advance just means that if I archive or delete one email, it automatically opens the next for me. Obviously useful if I'm someone who gets a lot of emails each day, because it just means I don't have to archive that, open the next, archive that, open the next. I can just keep going through them one by one automatically. Template, I'm going to switch on right now. I'll show you how that works in just a second. If you're a person who likes keyboard shortcuts, you can switch them on as well. And finally, there's the unread message icon. What this one does, let me switch it on and show. So I've switched those on now. If I head to the top, I might need to refresh the page. Let me go back to my all mail. Oh, didn't let me save that for some reason. What did I do that stopped it from saving those? I changed these in general and didn't save them, didn't I? That's what confused it. Let's save those first. And then I'll quickly go and double check that our advanced features need saving as well. So obviously, with the settings, as I said, you have to always make sure you click those. Yes, they did save for me, so that's fine. So the unread message icon, all that does, if I bring in the toolbar here, and let's say I've got this pinned to the side, you can see now it says 8 next to Gmail. If I zoom, can I zoom on that? No, I'm not going to be able to zoom in right in on that one on the screen. But right next to it, there's a tiny little number 8 just to show me how many unread emails I have. That's all that one does. I quite like it, but you don't have to switch that one on. The template is much more important. So the template lets you create a bank of template emails if there's certain things that you send quite often. Maybe if you're the person who sends email to parents, maybe it's an email that goes along with attendance has been low this week, or your child has won star of the week. Or if you're in the finance department, it might be a acknowledgement of invoice, or it might be sending out a PO, the type of email that you're just going to send the same thing over and over, and you don't have to rewrite it all the time. So I'll click on compose an email. So start off to create my template, I'm just as normal creating an email. I'm not going to put anyone in the toolbox for this one. And let's say I am that person who sends out the Star of the Week certificate for each, the parent of each child who's won it that week. So I'm going to put, your child has won Star of the Week. I'm writing my email. Good afternoon. Maybe these always go out in the afternoon. I'm delighted to inform you that your child has won the Star of the Week award today. Blah, blah, blah. I'm going to write a nice long email about it. Finish with kind regards, Gitter. So this is an email I'm going to send out a lot. It might be longer than this, so I really don't want to be retyping or copying and pasting from a doc. So I go into that More menu, the 3 dots here. And one of the options now is templates. That wasn't there earlier, but now that I've switched templates on in the advanced settings, I now have it here as an option. I'm going to save this draft as a template. And because I haven't got one already, I'm going to save it as a new template. So show that again. I clicked on the 3 dots, templates, and save draft, and say, oh, missed it there. Save as a new template. I'm just going to call this, it could keep the name it puts on there, but I'm just going to call this start of the week, let's say, and click save. So that template's been saved. I can delete that draft if I want now. And in the future, when I'm ready to send out those emails again, I can click the pen over here, click the 3 dots, hover on template, and there it is, start of the week. Click on it and it opens up already. I can even have attachments and things in the email that will save as part of the template as well. But obviously I can then edit this each time I use it if I want. So if I want to say, instead of your child, if I want to say that Wendy has one, make sure my spelling's correct, I can do that as well. If you do make a mistake in your template, so let's undo that so it's back to your child. I realize I've misspelled this on my template. That's fine. Just click the 3 dots again, head to templates, save again, and this time save on top of the previous one. So that's going to save on top of it with the correction. Well, I didn't do the correction then, but with the correction on it automatically. Now, getting close to the end of Gmail, now a couple of things more to discuss on there. First of all is filters. So filters, they can be called rules on some programs. These are where you say, every email from this person should have this label, or should be put in promotion instead of primacy, or every email that mentions the word invoice should be labeled as invoices, for example. To do those, we go back to search and we go back to advanced search over here. So let's say that every email that I get from Wendy, I want something to happen to it. So the first part is just to choose what are they looking for. Is it just an email from Wendy? Is it an email from Wendy that has the word meeting in it? Is it an email that I don't know who's it from, but it has the word invoice in it? Whatever rule I want to set, I start off by saying what emails are we searching for. I'm just going to put Wendy's email in there as my example. But instead of searching, I'm going to create a filter. Now I can say, what do I want to happen to Wendy's email? I can say that I want it to apply the label. So every email from Wendy should have the label staff on it. I can say that it should always be starred straight away because they're important. I can say delete it straight away. I highly recommend you don't do that to anyone, but that is an option in there as well. And then the last box is, do I want this to happen for all previous emails that match this rule as well? So by default, this will only happen to all future emails from Wendy. But if I had a lot of old ones, if I click the last box, it will also happen to all of those as well. As it happens, this account actually has never had an email from Wendy, but there we go. Create the filter, and it's done. That will always work like that. If you ever want to change the filter, if you remember in the settings menu earlier, there was a filter section. Ooh, let's head back to settings. The settings section, there was a filter area, and I can now edit or delete that filter there. Tracy's asked about templates and attachments. Let me quickly bring Tracy's message in here. My guess here, Tracy, you're saying that you've tried and can't get it to work with attachments. My guess is that you've been using the upload attachments from here. It might not work with those. If you're using your Google Drive ones, however, let's try one, because this certainly works the last time I tried it. Let's say it's invoicing. Let's say I'm saying, good morning. Invoice would be an awful example for this because you need a different invoice each time, but let's just use it for now. Here's the invoice for your services. If I add my document from Google Drive, so instead of uploading a document that's on my computer, I'm heading into Drive instead. And I'm going to throw on, let's go with this document here. Let's see if this does the job for us now. It should do. So I'm heading into the 3 dots. I'm going to go to templates, save this draft as a new template and call it invoice. And now that it's saved, I'm going to delete that draft altogether. So in future, I come and do a new one. I click on the 3 dots, hover on templates, click on invoice, and it adds that attachment straight back in. So it does work. It seems it's very likely. I will try the other way for you as well. And my guess is that it only works with things from your Google Drive and not things uploaded from the computer. But let's check that to see if I'm right. I'm going to attach. Here we go. I've got a Word document here. Let's attach that one. Save this on top of the old one. Let's see if that attachment saves. My feeling is that it won't because it works with Google Drive documents only. However, I have been mistaken many times before, so it's worth checking. Yes, there you go. So that's, I think, Tracy, that's why it didn't quite work for you last time. If you're using attachments in your templates, you want to be adding them from Google Drive as well. Yes, I can see you saying yes, it is there. What I would say, Tracy, is the more you start using the Google platform, we're doing the Drive session later today, the less you'll be using that paperclip. So I've been using my Google Drive as my home for all my documents for a good 9-10 years now. I never use that paperclip anymore because everything's in my Drive. My PDFs are there, my images are there, all my documents and even my videos are saved in there. So then you can use that feature to attach as well. And then on the screen itself, the last thing to show here is the active button. This is quite new. It's up over here. You can put yourself on Do Not Disturb, which means that you are not going to get told of any new emails coming. So if I can click that one, it means that I can say for the next hour, don't have any pop-ups telling me about new emails. Finally, in Gmail, before we turn our attention towards Google Calendar, well, not quite finally. If you have a question, we have time to edit that as well. So I'm going to talk about shared generic email in a second because David asked for that one. However, this is a chance, before we move on to Google Calendar, if you have a question about Gmail, please throw it in the chat now so that we can cover it before we jump on. But just to talk about shared and generic emails for a second, this question that David asked earlier in the session. Maybe being that, correct me if I'm wrong, David, you might have an email such as information@myschool.com or pastoral@schoolmy.com, which more than one teacher needs to access at the same time. If I've completely misunderstood your question, please let me know, but I'm pretty sure that's what we're talking about here. There are a few different options to hit this. None of it's going to be perfect, just because the idea behind an email account is that it's supposed to be for one person. However, a lot of businesses and schools do work with these shared or generic email addresses, so there are a few workarounds. Yes, multiple people processing emails sent to accounts. Yes, that's what I thought. So there's two ways of doing it. Which one works best depends on you. I've got a personal preference, but everyone is different. And what I'm going to do for this one, because it's not something that we have on this account itself, but I'm going to throw in some help for this as well. So let me just open up, here we go, the search box I'm looking for and bring it on here. So one of them is to have what's called a collaborative inbox. This is slightly different, and even though it's a way that I know a lot of people do work, it wouldn't be my first protocol myself. A collaborative inbox is actually a feature of Google Groups, which is a bit weird. It's not part of Gmail itself. But the idea is that you can set up a collaborative inbox as a Google group. That'll be an administrator who helps set that up. And from there, then, there's another screen that looks very similar to Gmail, but not Gmail, where all those emails are collated. So the Google group would have an email address, information@myschool.com. And then I choose which team members are allowed to have access to that collaborative inbox, and they can head into their reply, set responsibilities for emails, and so on. So that's one option, not one I've used personally, but I know it's one that a few schools use. The other one is to delegated email. So I'm going to throw that in there as well. So the second option you might have is email delegation. Slightly different here, and what you do is you would have a full Google account for information@myschool.com. So instead of the collaborative inbox, where it's just an email address that lives in its own little entity, but with multiple people having access to it, the other option with email delegation is to have a full account made for information@Google, but then to delegate access to that to a few different people. So what I'd have is, once that account is created, I can then go, actually, I can show you where this one is because this is in Gmail itself. Let me move this out of the way for a second. So an email delegation, that is inside Gmail. So our collaborative inbox is a separate program a bit. If I head into my settings and go to accounts here, so on this information@Google Gmail account, I'd head into here. From here, there is an option, where are we? I haven't used this one for a while now. Oh, it's the way around. Check mail from other accounts. It's the way around. From your account, you can go to add a mail account, and from here, add the information at Google account there as well, and so can the rest of your team. What happens then is you have two inboxes and you can switch back and forth between them. You don't have to sign in and out. It's not like having two accounts where you have to sign out to this one to open that one. That wouldn't be useful at all here. The idea is that if I had my delegated access open, I could switch, pretty sure it's from this menu here actually, I could switch back and forth between them when I need to, and multiple people would have access to it. So two ways of doing it, two very different ways. What I might suggest, David, is talk to your admin, have them help you set up both. So one collaborative inbox and one email delegation. See the difference, because there is a difference there in that the email delegation does live in Gmail, but really it's just a separate account that you all have access to, but with an easy switch button. While collaborative inbox is much more of a collaborative space where you can say, GitHub, can you deal with this email? David, can you deal with that one, and so on? But it is a different interface from Gmail itself, which adds a little bit more learning curve to it. So have a look at both of those. Collaborative inbox. What I'll do to help, I'll throw these two straight in the chat for you as well. So I have collaborative inbox information about it there. And then email delegation, I'll throw in the information of this one into the chat here. If you're watching this, whether live or later on demand, you can click on those links in the chat there as well. And I did see another question throw in. I think it was Tracy again. Yes, it does. When you forward an email, is it possible to change the title? Yes, I did quickly mention this earlier, but I'll show it again. Oh, no, I didn't reply earlier, didn't I? Let me try it on forwarding as well. So I've got this email. I'm going to forward it. So automatically, it's going to have the same title. But if I click on the arrow on the top left here, there's an edit subject option. So when I'm forwarding or replying or reply all, I can open it up and change the title on there as well. So yes, absolutely you can do so. So that's our tour of Gmail through with. As I said though, it is a nice session, hour and a half. So we will be spending quite a bit of time on calendar now, but hopefully we can have a good 5 minutes at the end to come back if there is an email that we need. Just going to put that one there, an email that we need to come back to. So ask your questions, even if it's Gmail one that I've moved on to calendar already, keep throwing them in the chat. I'll pop back later if needed. What I want to show now, however, is Google Calendar. So let's move on, leave Gmail behind us and head into there. A lot of questions on the application form were Google Calendar specific. So to access Calendar, just the same, I can type in Google Calendar in here, or I can use the waffle at the top. I can even access the waffle from Gmail itself. So it's up here on the right-hand side. So open Calendar from there. While Calendar is quickly loading in the back, can I also just point out in Gmail, and you'll see this in Calendar, in Drive later today, and pretty much in any part of Google these days, you have this sidebar with some links in it. Just quickly to show what that does. The calendar option on top, I'm in my Gmail, but if I click Calendar, I can see my calendar straight there. So I don't have to always open it as a separate tab. I can look quickly through my calendar as I'm writing my emails. Similarly, I mentioned Keep earlier, and that we'll try and have a look at that if we have time at the end. But Keep's my Post-it notes. I can open it inside my Gmail here, so I can look through all my notes and use those, obviously, as part of my email. I can even drag them in. And you know what? Before I go to Calendar, something has jumped up into my mind that I just thought of here, and that's the last option here, Tasks. Because Google has a tasks list, a task manager, a to-do list. If I open it here, click Get Started, as I never used in this account before, I can create a to-do list on the side here. And this tasks appears in my Google Drive and my email as well. And really nicely, any email that I open, let's go back to that top one there. So I have this email here. I can add this straight to my tasks. So if this is, I'm reading the email that says, GitHub, can you please have a look at this before Tuesday? I can click up here on the Add to Task option. And that straight away puts it as a to-do list. I can add a date and time if I want to. I need to do this by tomorrow. And it adds that to my to-do list. And then later on, when I'm opening this in Calendar or in Drive, or even as an app on my phone called Google Tasks, that will be there automatically. Sorry, I know it's about Start Calendar, but I remembered I hadn't looked at that sidebar there. So there's those. So let's switch over to Google Calendar. Quick note, you can see that the Keep and the Task are still here right there, ready to use. And this time I think Google Maps is in there as well as an option. So they consistently appear throughout the Google platform, but we want to look at Calendar itself. Now, first of all, I have a lot of calendars on the left-hand side here, a lot of calendars. You can ignore 99% of these. The reason I have so much there is, as a teacher, if I create a Google Classroom, a calendar is created for that classroom automatically. So that when I set homework or deadlines for assessments, that will appear on my calendar and all my students' calendar. So for now, all of these down the side, we can just ignore. I'm not going to tick all of them because there is a lot of them. But the key ones for me is the top one that has my name on it. Get to add on, you can see there. That will be there automatically for you. And if I scroll down, there's also a reminders one that you can see over there. That will be there automatically for you. And a tasks one that's there automatically as well. The final one at the bottom is holidays in the United Kingdom. That's there for everyone. That's why I can see my May bank holiday and spring bank holiday over here. If you don't want that to be on there, because it will throw up things that may be less important, which are not bank holidays. I've got the Queen's birthday there. It's a Saturday, so definitely not a bank holiday. You might have some ones that are only for specific nations, like a Scottish bank holiday. So if you want to switch that off, you can either just untick it by clicking the tick over there, or if you want to get rid of it for good, you can click the cross, and that calendar won't be on your Google Calendar again. But let's focus on those three that we have from the start. Your name, your personal calendar, your personal work calendar, I should say, your reminders, and your tasks. The task one, first of all, any task that you add on that My Tasks on through this button on the side here, in your Gmail, in your calendar, on the app, if you put a deadline, it will appear in your calendar automatically. So right here, you can see this one called Meeting. This has come from that email I set. So I had the email, I added to tasks, and it's added that directly to my calendar. I could click on View Related Emails, and that would open it in Gmail straight away to remind me what it was. There it is there. So that's what the task calendar here is about. Again, I can untick it or tick it on or off as I so wish. But the main one is your personal one. You can see mine is this light blue. There's nothing here. Oh, yes, there is. There's a couple there in light blue that we can see. But on the whole, this is a pretty empty calendar. This is not my real everyday calendar. So to add something, let's say this Thursday, I'm in the month view here. We can change that view. We'll look at that in a second. But I can click on the day I want my new meeting or event to be. Type in the name. So this might be a meeting with Wendy. I can select a specific time. So at the time, I want this to be at 11:30. Choose an end time if I want. I can repeat it. So either weekly or monthly on the fourth Thursday or the last Thursday. It tries to guess different ways that you want to repeat. Or there's a custom one at the bottom as well. Then I can add some guests. So I will quickly add Wendy to this. Oh, if I type in correctly. Now, because I've added someone, it even tells me here straight away, because I've added a guest, it automatically creates a Google Meet for us. Now, we might not need a Google Meet for it because we might be meeting face-to-face. But because I've added more people, it's automatically said, oh, here's a meet for you. I can just ignore it if this is not a virtual meeting. Or if I want to make sure there's no confusion, I can click the cross there to remove the meet as well. But if it is a over the internet video meeting, that's already created for you. It's there for you, ready when you want to use it. Location, obviously, we can type in if we need. Same for description and attachment. So I can type in description. I can add maybe an agenda for the meeting over there with add attachments. I'll talk about the end bit in a minute because that's about changing different calendars, which is something we'll come later on to. But I'm happy with this. I'm going to click Save. And it's going to ask me, do I want to invite Wendy to send her an email? Just this once, I'll click Don't, just so she doesn't get too many emails. That makes no sense. But normally, you would want that because you want them to get an email telling them of the meeting. And here it is now right there. I can click on this, click Join with Meet when the meeting does come, and that takes me straight into the Meet. Or I can click on the pencil over here to go into a more in-depth editing screen. Just to show, by the way, when I create the meeting for the first time, I could go to more options, which opens up the same screen. Here it is there. Not much difference here, to be fair. They've put most of these settings in the main page anyway, but it is useful to be able to come in here to edit, to change anything later on. Few things that are worth pointing out in here. First, we have the add notification. So you can say that you want to be notified maybe 1 day, 1 week beforehand, or I can have it as an email. So notification would mean if you're on Chrome, it would pop up, even if you're on Calendar or not. Or if you have the Google Calendar app on your phone, it would pop up there as well. But if you don't have the calendar on your phone, or you're worried you wouldn't be online, you can ask it to email you a day beforehand as well. And that's an option that it could do for you. David, we are absolutely going to hit the whole school calendar in a second. We'll come to that absolutely. The other thing that I can change on here, you can see I've got guests on there. Now, it is possible for your admin to create resources as well. So you could have, as another option here, next to guests, rooms. So if you want to book out the conference room in the school, or a trolley of laptops or Chromebooks, and you can have those so people can book those out through Google Calendar as well. And it'll set up so that 2 people can't book the same room at the same time. That would have to be set up by your admin. And if you did it, it would appear here as a room or a resource next to it there. And the other thing you can do from within the create events one, let's say I have, again, adding Wendy. I have this option here to find a time, because he says find a time over there. And what this does, and this does depend on how your admin has set up the viewability of calendars. Does it let me see what other people in my school are doing? If it does, you'll have this screen here where it shows my calendar on the left, Wendy's calendar on the right. Now, one option which I would prefer personally, which again is up to your admin, instead of me seeing exactly what Wendy's doing, because he's got, well, it's a meeting with me as it happens, and she has nothing else listed today, but it would say just busy and free. So instead of giving me all the details about what Wendy's doing and let me see her whole schedule, it would just say she's busy 11:30 to 12:30. She's busy 8 till 9 and so on. And it just means I can then look at both our calendars and say, I want my meeting here because that's a free slot for both of us. It saves those back and forth email. Let's meet tomorrow. Great, what time? Oh, I'm free at 10. Oh, I'm not. I've got a meeting. How about 12? Oh, half 12 okay for you? So on and so on. You can just check calendar, set the date there and the time. And obviously, if the other person's got a problem with that, they can then let you know. But you know that it's probably going to be free. I'll close this one down now, just so I don't have to add anything else to it, which is possible. Oh, by the way, this hatched area at the start and bottom, those are where my working hours. So I've said that I don't work before 9 and I don't work before 5. So this just lets people know don't schedule meetings with Gitto during those times. Your other options when creating an event is to just create an out of office. So instead of having an event in your calendar, you can just say I'm out of office. Maybe it's not all day. So I'm out of office from Thursday 11:30 to 1 p.m. or from Friday to Thursday next week and so on. You can say automatically decline meetings. So that from then on, if I click save, anyone who tries to set a meeting with me between my out of office times will get a message saying Gitto's not available, Gitto's out of office and so on. You can even, if you want to, you can see he's now declined that meeting with Wendy because I've said I'm out of office. So he's declined the meeting that I had there planned. You can, by the way, on that one, if I bring back the open, you can change the message. So you can say, sorry, I'm on holiday. Click save. That's the message they will get when they try and set a meeting with you. If someone invites you to a meeting, so instead of me creating a meeting, maybe Wendy makes one for me, it will appear on my calendar automatically. So even though it's not my meeting and I haven't set it, she's invited me, it will appear automatically. But it will have this white dot next to it instead of the blue. What that means is when I open it up, at the bottom I have a yes, no, maybe. So I can say, yes, I'm going to that meeting. It then becomes a full meeting filled in it with the blue on my calendar. Or I can say no, and that will cross it out and show there is a meeting you're invited to, but you're not going to it. So that's my own personal calendar. By the way, you can, because I know a lot of people like their colors, you can set different colors for each meeting. If I head back, oh, that's the out of office. Let's head back into the meeting instead. I can head in here, click on the color there and say, this meeting I want to be in green, for example. So if you are someone who likes the visual colors, you can set that up as well. The other option then is to have additional calendars. So not just your one main one. 2 reasons you might want to do this. The most common one is exactly what David was mentioning earlier. is to have a whole school calendar for staff to see, or to have a calendar for your team, or for, I'll say when I look at my own calendar, I have a calendar for me and my fiance as well, where we can put things for home stuff in there as well. So you can have calendars that you shared with specific other people, or you can have public calendars. We've got one in our school that's public, so that parents can see it. It's on the school website to be seen as well. Or you might just want a few different calendars for yourself. So I'll start by creating ones for a team, and then I'll quickly explain at the end why some people like to create them for themselves as well. So to create the new calendar, we scroll down. Obviously, you won't have this mass list of calendars in yours. This is my test account, so I create new classrooms all the time, so I get a lot of calendars made. But what you want to find is other calendars down the bottom and the plus next to that. Click that one, and you can create a new calendar. That will open up the new calendar screen. I'm going to call this one, let's call my school staff. I could put a description in. I'm not likely to do so that often. And then I'm going to create the calendar. It might take a few seconds to create. We do have 5 to 10. That calendar be made. Clearly aiming more for 10 for this one. There we go. It's been successfully created. Now in this settings area, down the bottom, here's the list of all my calendars. And now that it's been created, we're going to find, there it is, my school staff is now an option in there. So I've created a calendar. I'm the only person who can see it at the moment. So I'm going to head into that one. Just a note, if you've come out without going in there, you can head back by using the settings wheel over here. Clicking on settings, and then again, scrolling down until you find the calendar you want to change the settings for. A few options on here. I could make it available to the public. That's what we've done with our public calendar school, where you put things like our inset days, examination weeks, and so on there. So if I click on this one, it means that anyone with the link can view that calendar. You only do that for very specific calendars, like a public school one. For the vast majority, no thanks, you don't want that on. The next one is make available for, it's a Chrome school for me, it would say your school for you. This again depends on your admin settings. This means, do you want other people in the school to be able to see this calendar or not? That the default for this depends on what your admin says. So they might say default is nobody sees anyone else's. It might be default is staff can see each other's busy or not busy, or they might see open to all. But you can then go beyond granular and just set it for your own calendar as well. But the key part is this, share with specific people. So on here, I can add my other account on there. I can add Wendy on there, and so on, so on. And I can decide what permissions to give them. So I can say that they can see this calendar, but they're only seeing free and busy. Not much use if I want a team calendar for my whole school staff to be able to see what we're doing, what training days we have, who's out off school, which days, when are there book reviews and so on. So that's not that useful for those. The second one is see all event details. This means that Wendy and the other Gitter will be able to see everything in the calendar, but not add their own stuff. The third option is make changes. This means, yes, Wendy and the other Gitter has access to see everything in the school calendar. They can add their own events to it. They can edit events already set up on there. The only thing they can't do is invite new people to join this calendar. For that, right, I'd have to go to the last one, which is make changes and manage sharing. Have a think about how you'll use these. So as I said, our school have 2 calendars, one internal just for the staff to see, and one public. The public one, all of our staff has it to see only. So they can see the calendar, as can anyone going on the school website. It will appear in their Google Calendar, our staff, but they can't add their own things to it. Only the head, the office team, and the senior leader team have permissions to add things to that calendar, just to stop someone having a disastrous accident where they add something to a calendar, thinking it's a private calendar, and making it public instead. But for our staff calendar, we have it up as make changes so that our literacy lead can add in when they're doing literacy monitoring, for example, or when someone's also organising a staff meeting, can add that themselves. So you choose which ones you want for that one. I'm going to just take Wendy off this again so she doesn't get too many emails, and then send that over. What that means, I've made this calendar now, I've added my team to it. My team will get an email saying, Gitter has added you to this calendar. Do you wish to accept? Yes or no? And they click on the link to accept it. Once it's created, and for them, once they accepted it, it now appears here on the side. Here it is on my calendar, my school staff, you see there. What that means is anything added to that calendar by anyone in the team will appear directly on my Google Calendar as well. I can head into here, I can create a new event, call it staff meeting, and instead of adding this to my personal calendar and then adding all the staff one by one, I can click on the bottom where there's the picture of a calendar and my name, and I can change that. Again, I have way too many calendars here, but I can change that to my school staff, save, and now that's been added to that calendar. And everyone else who is a member of that calendar will have that appear automatically on their Google Calendar as well. So if I was looking at my real calendar now, I would have my school staff one, that would be in one color, my personal work one, another color, my personal with my partner one would be another color again, so I can have them all there in one place. But if you want to focus in on just your personal calendar, you can use these tick boxes here to hide any of the other calendars that you have and switch it on back and forth. And on that note, that is why some people set up multiple calendars for themselves as well. Because some people, again, depending on how you use your calendar, but those whose whole life revolve around organizing it, not whole life, that's not the right word, whole job revolves around it. I was speaking to someone yesterday who's an office manager who had one color for all of their meetings with primary schools, another color for all their meetings with senior leader staff, another color, and so on and so on. And they had two options. Either when they created a meeting, they could just go click on the same button here, but just change the color and say, right, this is a senior leader, so I'm going green for that one. But then they have to remember what each color was for each classification. Or they can create a specific calendar for meetings with primaries, another calendar for meetings with senior leaders, not share that with anyone, still have them as private calendars, but just means when they add them, they automatically then can say, this is a senior leaders one. So I'm going to add this one and throw this on my, let's say there was a senior leader option here, and save that one like so. And the last bit on this, if the colors are too close, you're not fans of the colors they've chosen, you can hover on the calendar on the left-hand side here, click the three dots and choose a different color for that calendar from now on. That will only affect you. If other people are members of that calendar, they can choose their own colors. That's not going to affect anyone else either. Couple last things, calendars. I know we've got about 5 minutes till we finish. So last call to throw in there for questions is I mentioned that in month view over here. Or if I click on month on the top there, I do have the option to switch to a week view or to a day view, depending on what uses I make on my calendar. I also have the options, if I go back to month, to not show the weekends. So to keep it to just the work days, if that's any use for you. And finally, if I head back into the settings wheel, click on settings, there's a few options down the bottom here were the settings for each calendar. We looked at those already, but there are a few options just for your whole Google Calendar experience. If we look quickly at those, language obviously comes up as an option. Time formats, do you want it to be in 24-hour clock or in normal clock? Scrolling down, that one might be important. If it's set for some reason to be US style, month, day, date, you can change that one as well. You're not going to need time zones probably in working in a school. If you are working across time zones, you can have it show both times at the same time if you so wish. These are more important for us, the event settings. So first is default duration. When you start a new event and say this starts at 10, what does that end box look like? Does it go straight to 11 or 10:30 or 10:45? You can edit that for each meeting individually, obviously, but this just says what the default is. So let's say half an hour. You can even click speedy meetings, which takes 5 minutes off every meeting that you set up, so that you have time to go from one meeting to the next, or to close that Google Meet and open another one up. Then down, notification settings. What do you want to have? Do you want a notification to come through before each meeting? I have this on my real one. I have 10 minutes before. So every meeting I have 10 minutes beforehand, I get a little pop-up reminding me of it. Again, you can change that to be a desktop notification or just a pop-up on your phone if you've got the app on there. And finally, here's the one I was looking for, start week on. So default is Sunday. A lot of people prefer to have that on as Monday start of the week. You can have that on there as well. And that's how I set my working hours earlier. Remember when I was finding a time and it's told that GitHub doesn't work till 9? You can sort that up on there as well. Go back and those changes will then take effect. The very final thing I'm going to show you, I have 3 minutes. Oh, yes, I can fit this in, is appointments. So if you need to set up a list of appointments and people can choose which time to come see you. So this might be parents' evening for teachers, or it might be if you need to have an open day, open evening where people can come and have assistance from you. We can set an event up. We can call this one appointment slots up here. I can say I want not all day. Let's say this is going to run from 11:30 in the morning to, I'm not going to do it till 9 p.m. Let's go 6:30. And they're both today, not going forward till, oh, wrong day there, not going forward until 2 days. So I've created this. I'm going to call this Mr. Parents Meeting. Click Save. And what that does, if I click on it again now, it's created me an appointment page. And that's a public page. I can click on this. I can take this link and share this with anyone else, with parents on school websites, whatever. And anyone can then come in here. They can click on any of these meetings that they'd like to do and say, this is, let's say Wendy is doing it. Not a good example, actually. Someone's parents would work best. So this is Tom's parents, maybe. They click Save. They've now booked that appointment. They cannot, nobody else can book that now. That's been booked for them. So when the next person comes, they'll only see the other settings. And in my calendar, you can see now, there it goes. I've got the parents meeting in there. If I click on it, I can see it's Tom's parents. It's a really nice way to have an appointment book that people can book a slot with you without you actually having to get some clever software to do so. And then I did mention Keep quite a few times. It's here on the side. This is Keep, where we can, again, have post-it notes, add a new note in there. Really nice way to have, these obviously just made up ones I've done, but you can have lists in there, checklists you tick off. You can put pictures in there you need to remember. You can put notes in there. We can add them here on the sidebar in Calendar, in Gmail, in Drive. You can have the Google Keep app on your phone, which do the same. Or Keep itself is a website all in itself. Google Keep, here it is. So I can have it here. I can add new notes on there. Remind me to whatever. There you go. That's added as a note. I can add checklists in here. I can see here. I can then tick them off as I go through them. Or I can add pictures as one as well. This is not Keep session, but I thought I'd quickly mention it as it's a nice way to keep yourself organized and stop having your desk being covered in post-it notes. So it is 11:30. I will say if you have a question very quickly, you can throw it in. But on the whole, we have reached our 90 minutes together. Can I remind you that we do have additional sessions coming up later on today? I want to say 1 o'clock. I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying that. We have another session focused this time on Google Drive. So creating documents, sharing documents, receiving documents, organizing your drive, creating shared drives to work as a team and so on. All that will be in the session later today. Please join us for that one. And on Thursday, you're going to have Wendy. You've heard me mention her over and over during the session today. Well, she will be joining us on Thursday to do a session on, let me skip forward there, a session on Google Forms with a little bit of Google Sheets, spreadsheeting in there as well. And then Darren comes Thursday afternoon to look a much deeper dive into using Google Sheets. If spreadsheet is a big part of your job, make sure you go and watch that one as well. If I can ask you very quickly to fill in the feedback form for today. This is the first session we've done aimed at office staff instead of aimed at teaching staff. So it's nice to have this program in place. Please do take a moment to give us feedback on it. The link is here, bit.ly/feedback2021 LGFL. I will actually throw that into the chat as well, as that's quite a long link. It's not quite the same link you'll see in the chat. This is the full link coming in there. But please take a second, click on that and give feedback on there as well. That's it for this session. Hopefully, I'll see you later today for the Google Drive training. Remember, all these sessions are also able to watch at your own pace at a later time through these YouTube links as well. So if you want to go back and double check something, you're welcome to do so. If you just want to watch this whole session again for some reason, you can do that as well. Thank you for joining today. Hopefully this was useful for you, and hope I see you again in another session this week. Thank you very much. Diolch yn fawr.